I'm going to show you how to make a cloud similar to this one. It's a pretty simple process, and it's just a cloud, simple thing to make. But in the process, I'm going to show you a lot of tools in Photoshop that will help you create pixel art um, and go on to do more advanced things, hopefully. So this is a cloud I made earlier. Um, it's 4 colors, and we're going to do one that's very similar, just a bit different shape. First, we need to set up Photoshop for pixel art, and we do that up in the Edit Preferences menu and go to General. And what we need to look at here is this image interpolation. It's currently on my computer set to nearest neighbor because I'm doing pixel art, but on most of yours it would probably be set to something else. So you would need to switch that to preserve hard edges or nearest neighbor. What this does is it prevents Photoshop from creating a bunch of extra opacities and colors to smooth out your stretching and distorting of your images or your bitmaps, and we're going to be doing a lot of that, so we don't want that. So make sure you set this up. I'm going to show you something else here. It doesn't really relate to what we're doing here today, but it is helpful if you're to make pixel art tile sets. Everything in pixel art for the most part is done on a 16 by 16 basis, or powers of 2. Um, so we need to set up a grid to reflect that. I put a major grid line every 64 pixels, and then subdivide that by 4, which gives us a nice 16 by 16 grid. You can hit Control H to turn it on. Sometimes that doesn't work because it depends on if you have it checked here under X under show, because if you, as long as this is checked, and you hit Control H, it will show the extras, and one of the extras that is currently checked is grid. So Control H toggles that, and we don't even need it for this video. It was just a little something extra for you. Okay, so to get started, I'm not actually going to draw anything. I'm just going to take one of these existing clouds down here and warp it. But first we need to make a copy of it, and I want it on a new layer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select it with the marquee tool. You can get the marquee tool up here from this menu. You want the rectangular one probably, so just select it, or you can hit M on your keyboard. That will give you the marquee tool as well. Then we can hit Control C to copy and Control V to paste. You can switch to the Move tool temporarily by pressing Control. You can also get to it up here in the menu by selecting it, or you can switch to it permanently by pressing M. When you're in the marquee tool and you press Control, that's when you get the Move tool, but you have to hold it down. You actually can't see it switching back and forth, but it is switching between the marquee tool and the selection tool right there. So now that I've got this new layer with our cloud on it that we're going to use as a base, I want to make it bigger. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click. Well, first I'm going to make a selection with the marquee tool. Then I'm going to right click and go to Free Transform. And Free Transform lets you do a lot of things. It's your basic scale tool, like that. You just grab the edges of the box. Oops. Or you can rotate it by going on the outside. And up here in the menu at the top, you can scale it by number. A nice thing is if you do a negative number, say negative 100%, it mirrors it. So if I hit negative 100%, it mirrors it horizontally. If you choose width, negative height to do that with the height. What I want to do now though is scale it. Okay, that'll work. And now I'm just going to smooth this out by getting rid of all this blockiness. So what I've done is I've switched to the pencil tool, and you can get to the pencil tool again at the menu, or you can press B on your keyboard. B is the shortcut for brush and pencil, and by default Photoshop has the brush selected, but you don't want the brush because it doesn't create hard edges. So make sure you go to this menu and select the pencil tool. You can set the size up here, and hardness doesn't do anything with the pencil tool. You can also switch the brush, but most of the time just a circle works. That's what I use, and 1 pixel will work in this case. So I'm just going to start smoothing out these edges, these massive edges that were made by scaling. I have a tablet, but you don't necessarily need one to do pixel art. It's helpful, but not required. So we're just going to go through this and get rid of some of these big blocky edges. I'm going to switch to the erase tool now. It's right here in the menu. You can also get to it by hitting E. And the erase tool is similar to the pencil and the brush tool, only it erases instead of adds color. Again, same as with the brush, it probably will be on brush mode to begin with. You need to come up to this menu and switch it to pixel, and then you can set the size and everything just like the pencil tool. So with that, you can erase this whole thing here. And now we're just using the erase tool to get rid of some of the blockiness, just like we were doing before with the pencil. I'm going to press the space bar now and move the screen over. Hold space bar down and you can move your view, pan your screen. It's helpful. I use a lot of keyboard shortcuts because it speeds up the workflow a lot. I'm going to press B to switch to my brush tool. Or I'm sorry, my pencil tool in this case. It's B for brush, but as I said before, the pencil and the brush have the same keyboard shortcut, and you have to toggle between them on the menu. Spacebar again to move the screen. Control Z to undo. You only get one undo in Photoshop. There's a history panel which you can get to from right here. If it's not there, it'll be up in Window and History, and you can go back a ways in that and see all the edits you've made to whatever it is you're painting in Photoshop, and you can select many times you, or how far you want to go back. Almost got rid of most of the blockiness. I'm not so worried about the colors inside because we're about to get rid of those anyway, but the border needs to be less blocky. Erase tool again. There we go. I'm gonna bring this out a little bit here. I think that'll look cool. Erase again. There's a few spots here. Just want to smooth this out. It would have been easy enough to just paint something like this too. I just used that cloud as a reference because I kind of like the general shape of it. The one above that I already created, I did that 100% with no reference, but in this case it was just easier for tutorial's sake to speed up the process. Okay, I'm going to call that good for the moment. Like I said, we're not worried about the stuff inside because we're going to get rid of all that right now. There are a few ways you can do that, and I'm going to show you them. You can use the paint bucket tool, which is here on the menu. You might see a square block like this. That's a gradient. Click and hold down and switch to the paint bucket tool. It has a keyboard shortcut of G if you need it. And we need to check our options up here. Make sure mode is set to normal, foreground color, opacity 100, tolerance 0. Tolerance you need at 0 because if you have it at any more, it'll start affecting other colors that are near the current color you're selecting. Near as in close in color or hue. Anyway, contiguous, if you have contiguous selected, it will only affect pixels that are touching. So if with continuous on, if I switch the color of the outside to purple, you can see that the outer bits that aren't touching didn't get changed. I'm going to Control C to undo that. If you turn it off, it switches all the colors. It doesn't switch the other colors, the same color on different layers though, so that's why all these up here and this down here didn't get switched even though they're the same color. So if I want to, I can grab this darkest blue and I can hit Alt to temporarily switch to the eyedropper and select that and start dumping that color to get rid of it, to get rid of the lighter colors. Now I'm going to switch back to the brush tool and start brushing again. I'm going to get rid of this altogether. And now that we don't have all that extra color distracting us, I'm just seeing a little more blockiness, so I'm going to quick get rid of that. And I'm just switching B and E between the two. Okay. There are some other changes I want to make. I'm going to hit Control minus to zoom out a little bit. I want to move this part up a little so that it comes up into the cloud. So to do that, I'm going to take the marquee tool and select it all that I want to move, and just press Control to temporarily switch to the move tool and move it up. And I'm going to switch to the erase tool to get rid of some more of this right here. smooth that edge out a little. You can affect this cloud in a lot of ways using the free transform tools. They are under, again, you right click, free transform, and in the free transform you have a lot of different options here. There's scale, which is what we're currently on and we've used before. We can scale it. Rotate, which you can do from the scale menu by selecting the outside of the box. You can skew, which will just do exactly that. Skew your selection over. The Control Z to undo that. You can distort, which kind of, you get these boxes at the corners and it kind of just pushes pixels around. And actually, well, no, I'll do that with the warp tool. Warp tool is pretty cool. You get this grid and you can adjust your cloud based on these points. I want to adjust it down a little and bring. It's kind of a subjective thing, but I just felt like that looked better. But I want to peek up here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this selection here and hit Control and Alt to duplicate it. If you hold Control and Alt down and drag your selection, it will copy that selection and make it, and you can then move it. Sometimes it's easier to make selections and just delete pixels instead of using the erase tool. And sometimes it's easier to copy selections and move them about rather than drawing every individual pixel, because it allows you to draw a lot more pixels at once. This tail's sticking up, so I'm gonna, and I don't, tail of a cloud, I don't want that to be pointing up like that, so I'm gonna go ahead and select it, go back to free transform, and from there I have a couple options. I could rotate it and bring it in like so, and that's working pretty well. But for sake of this tutorial, I'm going to free transform again and show you the warp tool again. There. The warp tool is very useful. You can imagine if you had a character and you needed, we'll say Sonic, and you wanted to adjust his spikes or something like that, you could select the spike and adjust it and get a rough shape and then go back and smooth it out with the pencil tool. Get exactly what you want. That's pretty good for now. I showed you all the tools I wanted to show you, and the cloud looks okay, so we're good to go. Next thing we want to do is we need to get some of the colors from this cloud in here. And the obvious way to do that is to hit Alt, grab a color, and start painting. But it's going to take a lot of time to do that. And there's a quicker way. So instead, after I erase these, we're going to use our magic wand tool. And the magic wand tool has a lot of the same options as the paint bucket tool. You can select all of one color with it. With contiguous on, it only selects colors that are touching, the pixels that are touching each other. With contiguous off, it'll select all of them. And just like the paint bucket tool, make sure tolerance is set to 0, anti-alias is off. You probably want sample all layers off too, and make sure it's set to point pixel, or point sample, I'm sorry. Okay, from here we can make changes to this selection. One thing that we can do is right click and go to oops, I'm sorry, we can't right click. You have to be in the marquee tool to right click and get the transform selection, which works exactly like the free transform, only it works only on the selection and not what you have selected. So if I make changes to this, you can see it changes the selection, but it does not change the pixels underneath the selection. I'm going to right click and go to scale, and if I scale this, I can come inside the cloud a little and from there I can add the extra color I wanted with the the paint bucket tool. So I'm going to go ahead and select the paint bucket tool, and I'm going to take this lightest color here. Okay, now why did I take the lightest color? Well, that'll become apparent in a second. Again, I'm going to select the whole thing with the magic wand tool, and this time I'm going to come up to the select menu, which is a bunch of options for your current selection, and I'm going to go to modify, and I'm going to go to border, and this will create a border around your selection. In this case, we want a border of -4. That will bring it in a bit. And whoop, I was thinking you could, but I guess you can't. No, that's okay. I was thinking you could do negative numbers, but apparently not. So now what I want to do from here is I want to place this second lightest color, or second darkest blue here inside this selection. There's a problem though. I'll illustrate it here. I'm going to take my paint bucket tool, and if you look really closely you can see it made extra colors. I don't want that. It's the border tool always does it. It stinks, but it's the way it is. There's a fix though. You need to go over to your channels panel. Actually, I'm sorry. You need to first turn the selection into a mask. In order to do that, you just go down to this mask button right here on the menu and click it, and it will mask your current layer with that selection. So now you can see that the outside or the inside isn't displaying. Everything, if you look at your mask right here, it's hard to see, but everything that's black shows or is hidden, and everything that's white shows, and gray is somewhere in between, so it sets an opacity level, which is why we're having this problem in the first place. So to fix that, we're going to go to our channels panel, and any layer mask that you have will also create a new channel, and from there we just need to set all the pixels to either black or white, because right now they're set to gray, which is why we're getting some of those half transparent pixels. So under image adjustment, come to threshold. Threshold starts at 128, which is the middle, 256 being the brightest, or 255 being the brightest white, and 0 being black, or 1 maybe. So we set it, and by changing that, you can adjust how much of it's showing. I'm going to set it to 1. And then now the only trick is we need to convert this back into a selection. So do that, hold Control down, and click on the layer mask, or now we've got this selection back, and we could dump paint into it. We've already done that though, so that's fine. I'm going to now delete the layer mask because we don't need it anymore. And we've got our cloud and a selection that will let us paint a color without getting transparencies. Whoops. Hit Alt to get this second darkest blue color. And I think that works best. I'm kind of trying to go fast here. So now I've got some darker colors and some lighter colors, and I think that went a little too far, so I'm just going to come in here and quickly change some of that. You have the option to go back and redo your selection if you'd rather. So I want to get this first of all, I want to get this line shading into my lighter color here. In order to do that, I need to create just some of that color every other line. Make sure it's straight. So I'm going to select the Marquee tool and make a 1 pixel thick selection, and then with my paint bucket tool, I'm just going to make sure that's the right color. Yeah, I'm just going to paint actually the darkest color in there. And I'm going to make copies of this. Oops. For some reason it's copying the whole thing. I'm not sure why at the moment, but we'll just copy and paste. Oh, it's because I have both layers selected. That would be our issue. So now I'm just going to hit Control and Alt to duplicate this down. Every other line. And I need it to be as tall and as wide as our cloud. Again, I'm just hitting Control and Alt to make duplicates of this. Move it up. Okay, that's good. So now I want to add these lines to our drawing, or our pixel art down here. So I want to make a selection of this whole cloud, and I can do that by just hitting Shift to add to our magic wand tool, and now we've got it all, almost all of it. Oops. Let's try that again. I've got a massive selection going on here, the whole screen, so just need to click off the screen or click off our canvas to get rid of that. And the reason why that happened is I need to make this a new layer. So I'm going to Control X to cut that and paste it on a new layer. Control to move it again. And then I'm going to switch back to our Marquee tool. Now I'm on the wrong layer. Marquee tool, and select all the colors. Now I've got a selection of our cloud, and with the Marquee tool or the magic wand tool selected, and hovering over a selection, you can drag your selection up. So I'm going to do that and get a copy of this. I'm on the wrong layer. And now I've got a copy of these lines. There. We don't want the lines going all the way through our drawing, or our art though. So I'm just going to take the pencil tool and increase its size a little bit, say 8 pixels. Select the lightest color and paint away a lot of this. And I actually am going to switch the lightest this from being the lightest color to being a little darker. And I want to do that with contiguous off. And I need to do it on both layers. Okay, there. So now I think I need a little more of this second color, the second darkest color, showing up past the darkest color. So we're going to make another selection and do that. But first we need to merge our 2 layers. So go ahead and use Shift to select them both. Right click on this menu over here. Try that again. Sometimes it brings up a different menu. And hit Merge Layers. Okay. Then I'm going to take my Magic Wand tool, select this color here, the lightest color on this cloud currently, second lightest overall, and make a border for it. Same way as we did before. Select, modify, border. I'm going to set it to 2 pixels this time. And again, we need to make a layer mask and go over to our channels panel and then go to Image, Adjustments, Threshold. Set it down to level 1. Hit Control, make our selection. Get rid of our layer mask now. Delete it. And hit G to get back to our paint bucket tool. Select the second darkest color and throw it in that selection. Now, just like the darkest color, we want some lines going through or we want some line shading like we have with our darkest selection, or with our darkest color. So to do that, I'm just going to reuse this up here. I'm going to select it and change its color. With it selected, you can change its color without contiguous off, without affecting, or without contiguous on, without affecting the rest of the screen, the rest of your art. So now I've got the second darkest color here. Make another selection, the inside here, drag it up, copy, paste, drag this down with the Move tool, and I've got another another set of shading. I'm going to go ahead and merge these 2 layers because I created a new layer when I copy pasted. Right click, merge after you've selected them both, And I'm going to again go into this paintbrush tool and paint away some of the interior. And really, I want to make a little of this wider. This is simple, and this is a small enough section that I'm just going to do this by hand. I'm going to take some of these over here and hold Control and Alt and make a copy of them. And I went just a little too far because I don't want it affecting this over here. So I'm going to bring it up here and get about and delete some of this extra I don't need. And then put it back down here. Back to the brush tool. Set it back to 0. You can switch the size of your brush or pencil tool with the brackets on your keyboard. That's really handy. Alt to switch between colors. Using keyboard shortcuts saves you a lot of time. And this one's simple enough. I'm just going to drag these out with the pencil tool. Okay. Now, up at the top here, I think we have a little too much darkness because it's a cloud and I want the light to be coming from the top, like this one up here. So I'm gonna make my brush tool a little bigger, my pencil tool I should say, and erase some of this up here. Can then make another selection and bring those lines out if I want to. Where are they got? Now I'm just using the marquee tool and the brush tool to polish this off a little, dragging around pixels that I think would look good elsewhere, and just adding a little bit of polish. I think I got that wrong. Just don't want, for the most part, I don't want any of the darkest color touching the lightest color. They should be in order. And zoom out and take a look at this. That's looking pretty good. A little bit less of this dark color maybe. It looks kind of good with gaps between some of them. Just give it a little variety. This is a pretty simple piece of pixel art, but hopefully I've been showing you a lot of tools and stuff that you can use for more complex things. the last thing we need to do is put some of this lightest color down. And I'm just going to make a selection here, like so. And actually, I want contiguous on. So I'm going to do that again with contiguous. And I'm going to bring it in with transform selection. But you got to be on the marquee tool. Transform selection. And then we'll just scale it. You can hold shift to scale it and keep its dimensions intact, or the ratio of height and width. And you can hold Alt to scale from the middle. So that can be helpful. All I need to do is scale from the middle. I would just bring this in a little. And hit enter. There's just a little too much down here at the bottom, so if with my marquee tool, if I hold Alt, I can then drag and remove some from the selection. Remove here. That was a little too much, so I can hold shift down to add back to the selection. Okay, then I'm just going to add the lightest color and add a little bit down here. That's pretty much the process of making this cloud, and hopefully you can use some of the things you've learned to make in more complex projects and improve your pixel art. I mean, this could possibly use a little bit more polish, but nothing that is worth showing in a video. So thanks for watching.